Marcus Wellington had forgotten what hunger felt like. At 52 years old, with a net worth that Forbes estimated at $3.7 billion, his biggest meal decision was usually which Michelin-starred restaurant to choose for dinner. Tonight, he'd picked Lawrence, an exclusive French restaurant in downtown Manhattan, where reservations required a 3-month wait and a willingness to spend what most people earned in a week. The dinner had been extraordinary. Wagyu beef, imported wine, desserts that looked like edible art. Marcus had barely tasted any of it. His mind was elsewhere, running through numbers for tomorrow's board meeting, calculating projections, thinking about the Tokyo expansion. He'd eaten a $1,000 meal the way most people ate fast food. Mechanically, without thought. Now, walking to where his driver waited with a black Mercedes, Marcus checked his phone, scrolling through emails that couldn't wait until morning. The November air was cold, biting through his cashmere coat, and the streets of New York hummed with their usual nighttime energy. Taxis honked. People rushed past. The city never slept, never stopped, never paused. That's when he saw her, a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, sitting on the cold sidewalk outside a closed bookstore. She wore a thin pink jacket that had seen better years, faded jeans with holes in the knees, and sneakers held together with duct tape. Her dark hair hung in tangled waves around a face that was too thin, cheekbones too sharp, eyes too hollow for someone so young. In her small hands, she held a cardboard sign. The letters were carefully written in crayon, each word formed with the concentration of a child who'd work hard to spell everything correctly. Hungry. Please help. God bless you. Marcus stopped walking. Something about her made him freeze mid-step, phone forgotten in his hand. Maybe it was how still she sat, not calling out or bothering passers-by. Maybe it was a resignation in her young eyes, as if she'd already learned that most people would walk past without seeing her. Maybe it was the careful way she'd written that sign, the hope embedded in each crayon stroke. People flowed around her like water around a stone. Hundreds of people on this busy street, and not one stopped. They looked away, pulled their children closer, walked faster. The girl didn't react. She just sat there, holding her sign, her lips moving silently. Marcus realized she was counting the people who passed without looking. He watched a well-dressed couple walk by, the woman carrying shopping bags from designer stores. The man glanced at the girl, then quickly away, pulling his wife closer. A group of college students passed next, laughing about something on their phones, not even noticing the small figure on the cold ground. A businessman in a suit similar to Marcus's own hurried past, checking his Rolex, late for something important. Marcus looked down at his own hands. Hands that had signed billion-dollar deals. Hands that had never known the desperation of wondering where the next meal would come from. Hands that were now trembling slightly, though he couldn't say why. He walked toward her. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if he were walking through water. The girl looked up as a shadow fell over her, and Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes. Not hope, exactly. More like cautious wariness. The look of someone who'd learned that attention from adults could mean danger as easily as help. "Hi," Marcus said softly, crouching down to her level, his expensive suit pressed against the dirty sidewalk. But he didn't notice. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, clutching her sign tighter. "Lily," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the city noise. "Lily, that's a beautiful name." Marcus glanced at her sign, then back at her face. "Have you eaten today?" Lily shook her head slowly. Her eyes dropped to the ground, shame coloring her thin cheeks. "Not since yesterday. At school. They gave us lunch yesterday." Yesterday. Marcus thought about his own day. Breakfast meeting with catered pastries. Lunch at his desk with sushi delivery. Afternoon coffee with biscotti. The dinner he'd just finished. All in one day. And this child hadn't eaten in 24 hours. "Where are your parents?" Marcus asked gently. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back with a practiced control, of someone who'd cried too much already. Mama's at home. She's sick, real sick. She can't work anymore, and we don't have money for food. I came here because I thought maybe people in nice clothes would help. She said it so matter-of-factly, this terrible reality of her life, that Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, a door he'd kept sealed for years, a reminder of something he'd worked hard to forget. "Wait here," Marcus said, standing up. "I'll be right back." He walked to the corner bodega, his mind racing. Inside, under fluorescent lights that hummed and flickered, he grabbed a basket. Bread, peanut butter, milk, apples, cheese, crackers, soup cans, juice boxes. His hands moved quickly, filling the basket with things a child would eat, things that would last a few days. At the counter, he added 3 hot sandwiches from the warmer, a cup of hot chocolate, and a bottle of water. The cashier, a tired-looking man with kind eyes, rang everything up. "That's a lot of food," he observed. "It's for someone who needs it," Marcus replied, pulling out his wallet. As he did, a photograph slipped out, falling to the floor. He bent to pick it up, and for a moment, he just stared at it. The photo was old, creased from years of being carried. It showed a young boy, maybe 10 years old, standing outside a small house. The boy was smiling, but his clothes were worn, his shoes too small. Marcus knew that boy. He'd been that boy before the scholarships, before Harvard, before Wellington Enterprises, before the billions. He'd been that boy who knew what hunger felt like, who'd worn the same jeans until they fell apart, who'd watched his mother work 3 jobs and still couldn't make rent some months. He'd been that boy, and somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten. Marcus paid for the groceries, tucked the photo carefully back into his wallet, and walked back to where Lily waited. She was exactly where he'd left her, still holding her sign, still counting the people who didn't see her. He sat down beside her on the cold sidewalk, his $3,000 soup be damned, and opened one of the sandwiches. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "Eat." Lily took it with shaking hands, and the way she looked at that sandwich, like it was the most precious thing in the world, broke something in Marcus that he didn't know could still break. She didn't wolf it down. She ate slowly, carefully, making it last, savoring every bite because she didn't know when the next meal would come. Marcus watched her eat, and he saw himself. 35 years ago, different city, same hunger, same fear, same feeling of being invisible while the world rushed past. "Lily," Marcus said quietly, "where do you live?" Lily led Marcus through streets that grew progressively rougher as they walked. The gleaming towers of downtown Manhattan gave way to neighborhoods where the American dream felt more like a distant rumor. They passed boarded-up shops and apartment buildings with peeling paint. Street lights flickered uncertainly. The Mercedes followed slowly behind them, Marcus's driver confused but obedient. Lily carried the grocery bags carefully, as if they contained treasures instead of simple food. She walked quickly, glancing back periodically to make sure Marcus was still there, as if expecting him to disappear like a dream. They arrived at a 5-story walk-up in the Bronx. The building looked tired, defeated by years of poverty and neglect. Graffiti covered the ground floor walls. The front door hung crooked on its hinges. The elevator had an out-of-order sign that looked permanent. "5th floor," Lily said apologetically, noticing Marcus eyeing the stairs. They climbed. The stairwell smelled of old cooking and dampness. Somewhere above, a baby cried. A television blared through thin walls. This was a building full of people living on the edge, one missed paycheck away from homelessness. Lily stopped at apartment 512. The door was scratched and dented, the numbers hanging crooked. She pulled a key on a string from inside her jacket and unlocked it, pushing the door open to reveal a studio apartment that made Marcus's heart sink. The space was tiny, maybe 300 square feet total. A hot plate sat on a counter that served as a kitchen, a small table with mismatched chairs. A worn couch that clearly doubled as someone's bed. A mattress on the floor in the corner. The walls were bare except for a few crayon drawings taped up. A child's attempt to make the place feel like home. But it was clean, despite the poverty, despite everything. Someone had worked hard to keep this place clean. The floor was swept. The few dishes were washed. The couch cushions were arranged neatly. Poverty with dignity, Marcus thought. The hardest kind. On the couch lay a woman whom Marcus assumed was Lily's mother. She was maybe 35 but looked 50, worn down by illness and struggle. And 4 bag hung from a makeshift stand beside her, connected to her arm. Her face was gaunt. Her skin had an unhealthy pallor, and she struggled to sit up when they entered. "Lily," she whispered, her voice weak with fever. "Who is this?" "Mama." This man helped me. He bought food. Lily rushed to her mother's side, setting down the groceries carefully. Marcus stood in the doorway, suddenly feeling intrusive in this intimate space of suffering. The woman looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment, tried to smooth down her hair, to present herself better to the stranger in the expensive suit. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry she was out there. I told her not to go, but we haven't eaten and I can't work, and the bills keep coming. She dissolved into tears, covering her face with thin hands. "Please," Marcus said gently, stepping inside and closing the door. "Don't apologize. I'm Marcus, and I'd like to help if you let me." The woman looked up at him through her tears. "I'm Angela," she said, "and I don't know what to say. I've never asked for handouts. I've always worked. I was a nurse at St. Mary's for 12 years. But then I got sick, and the insurance ran out, and—" Her words came in a rush, the dam breaking after holding back for so long. She told Marcus everything. The cancer diagnosis 8 months ago. The treatments that took all their savings. Losing the job because she couldn't work. Losing the apartment because they couldn't pay rent. Moving here, to this tiny space in a building owned by a slumlord who didn't fix anything but still charge rent they could barely afford. Try and keep Lily in school. Try and keep her childhood normal even as their world fell apart. Marcus listened to all of it, standing in that tiny apartment. And with each word, the walls he'd built around his heart crumbled a little more. He'd spent 30 years in boardrooms, making decisions that affected thousands of employees, millions of dollars. He considered himself successful, important, powerful. But standing here, listening to Angela's story, watching Lily carefully put away the groceries as if organizing a treasure, Marcus realized he'd forgotten the most important thing. He'd forgotten what it meant to be human, to suffer, to struggle, to need help and be too proud to ask for it. "What kind of cancer?" Marcus asked quietly. "Lymphoma," Angela said. "Stage 3. The treatments at St. Mary's were working, but then I lost my insurance, and I can't afford to continue. The clinic gives me pain medication and these 4 fluids for dehydration, but that's all they can do without payment." Marcus pulled out his phone. Angela watched him, confused. He dialed the number, waited for the answer. "Dr. Richardson? It's Marcus Wellington. I need a favor. Actually, I need you to save someone's life." The next 72 hours moved like a whirlwind. Marcus did what he did best, what made him a billionaire. He made things happen. He removed obstacles. He solved problems. But this time, it wasn't for profit or power. It was for something he'd almost forgotten existed. Purpose. Dr. Richardson, head of oncology at Columbia Presbyterian, and an old friend from Marcus's charitable board, met Angela that very night. He came to the apartment personally, examining her with gentle efficiency, while Lily watched with huge, hopeful eyes. "This is treatable," Dr. Richardson said, his words falling like rain after a drought. "Very treatable. We'll start chemotherapy immediately. You'll need to be admitted tomorrow. But, Angela, your prognosis is good. You should have been getting treatment months ago." Angela wept. Lily wept. Marcus turned away, staring out the small window at the Bronx skyline, his throat tight with emotions he couldn't name. The next morning, Marcus picked him up in his Mercedes. Angela sat in the back seat, overwhelmed by the leather interior, the smooth ride, the impossibility of what was happening. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching the city transform from rundown neighborhoods to gleaming towers. Columbia Presbyterian welcomed Angela like royalty. Private room, best doctors, around-the-clock care. Dr. Richardson personally oversaw her treatment plan, and within hours of her first chemotherapy session, the medical team was optimistic. The cancer had spread, yes, but not beyond treatment. With aggressive therapy, her chances were excellent. Marcus set Lily up in a hotel suite near the hospital. 2 bedrooms, a living room with a television, a kitchen stocked with food. Lily walked through the rooms, touching everything carefully, as if afraid it would disappear. "Is this real?" she whispered to Marcus. "Or am I dreaming?" "It's real," Marcus said, kneeling down to her level. "And Lily, I need you to do something for me. I need you to stop being afraid. Your mom is going to get better. You're going to be okay. I promise you." Lily looked at him with those 2 old eyes that had seen too much suffering for someone so young. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "You don't even know us." Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. Then he pulled out his wallet and showed her the old photograph, the boy in worn clothes outside the small house. "That's me," he said softly. "A long time ago. I was you, Lily. I know what it feels like to be hungry, to be scared, to think nobody sees you. Someone helped me once. A teacher who paid for my college applications. A neighbor who made sure I had dinner. Small kindnesses that changed everything. I forgot that for a long time. I got rich and busy and important. But you reminded me what really matters." Lily hugged him then, suddenly and fiercely, and Marcus held this little girl who was both a stranger and a mirror of his past. He felt tears on his cheeks and didn't wipe them away. Over the next week, as Angela underwent treatment, Marcus made more changes. He visited their landlord, a man who owned dozens of buildings and maintained none of them. The conversation was brief and clear. Either the building got fixed immediately, or Marcus would buy it outright and ensure the man never operated in New York again. The repairs started the next day. He visited Lily's school, meeting with the principal. He established a fund for children from low-income families to ensure they got breakfast and lunch year-round, no questions asked. No child should have to go hungry, he told the amazed principal. Not in a city this wealthy. Not anywhere. He called his executives at Wellington Enterprises and established a new initiative. For every employee making under $50,000 a year, the company would now provide comprehensive health insurance, fully paid. The board protested about the cost. Marcus overruled them. "People matter more than profits," he said. "And if we can't afford to take care of the people who work for us, then we need to rethink our entire business model." But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. He started volunteering at a soup kitchen 3 blocks from his office. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, instead of working late or attending galas, he served food to people who reminded him where he came from. He listened to their stories, learned their names, remembered their humanity and his own. His friends didn't understand. His business partners thought he'd lost his mind. The media called it a midlife crisis. But Marcus didn't care. For the first time in 30 years, he felt like he was doing something that mattered, something real. 3 months later, Angela walked out of Columbia Presbyterian cancer-free. The doctors called it remarkable. Marcus called it miraculous. Angela called it an impossible gift she'd never be able to repay. She looked different now, stronger. Her hair was growing back from the chemotherapy, short and curly. Color had returned to her cheeks. Hope had returned to her eyes. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost, and she moved with the energy of someone who'd been given a second chance at life. Lily waited outside with Marcus, bouncing on her toes with excitement. She wore new clothes, warm and well-fitting. Her hair was neatly braided. She looked like what she was, a healthy 9-year-old girl whose childhood had been returned to her. When Angela emerged to the hospital doors, Lily ran to her, and they held each other for a long time, crying and laughing simultaneously. Marcus watched from a distance, giving them their moment, feeling a contentment that no business deal had ever provided. Later, they sat in a cafe near the hospital. The three of them crowded around a small table. Angela held Marcus's hand across the table, tears streaming down her face. "How do I thank you?" she whispered. "How do I possibly thank you for giving me my life back? For taking care of my daughter? For everything?" Marcus shook his head. "You don't thank me. You live. You be happy. You raise that beautiful girl. To be as kind as you are, that's all the thanks I need." "But we can never repay you," Angela said. "The medical bills alone." "I don't want repayment," Marcus interrupted gently. "This isn't a loan. It's not a transaction. It's just what should have happened from the beginning. You worked hard. You paid your taxes. You contributed to society. When you got sick, the system should have caught you. It didn't. That's not your failure. That's ours. As a society. As humans. We forgot how to take care of each other." He paused, looking at both of them. "You gave me something more valuable than anything I could give you. You reminded me why I'm here. Not to accumulate wealth. Not to build an empire. But to make a difference. To see people. Really see them. The way I saw Lily that night, and the way someone once saw me." Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table in front of Angela. "This is a deed to a brownstone in Brooklyn. 3 bedrooms. Safe neighborhood. Good schools. It's yours. Free and clear. No mortgage. No rent. It's yours to live in, to make a home in, to be safe in." Angela stared at the envelope, her hands trembling. "I can't accept this. It's too much. It's done," Marcus said firmly but kindly. "The papers are already filed. And there's one more thing. Wellington Enterprises has a new director of community health services. The position comes with full benefits, a good salary, and flexible hours, so you can be there for Lily. If you want it, the job is yours. We need someone who understands what it's like to fall through the cracks. Someone who can help us build programs that actually help people." Angela broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. Lily climbed into her mother's lap, holding her, and they clung to each other like survivors of a storm. Marcus sat quietly, letting them process, feeling a peace he hadn't known in decades. When Angela could finally speak, she looked at Marcus with red-rimmed eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Of all the people in this city who need help, why us?" Marcus thought back to that November night, to a little girl on a cold sidewalk, holding a crayon sign, to the hundreds of people who walked past without seeing her, to the moment he'd stopped, the moment that had changed everything. "Because I saw you," he said simply. "And once you really see someone, really see them, you can't unsee them. You become responsible. Not in a legal way. In a human way. We're all responsible for each other. We just forget sometimes. We get busy. We get comfortable. We stop seeing." He smiled at Lily, who smiled back, her whole face lighting up with joy. "You taught me to see again, Lily. That's worth more than any amount of money." 5 years later, Marcus stood on a stage in a community center in the Bronx. The center hadn't existed before. Now it stood as a beacon in the neighborhood, offering after-school programs, job training, health services, and hot meals to anyone who needed them. The Wellington Foundation had built 12 more across the city. The audience was packed with families from the neighborhood. Marcus had asked to keep his speech short. He had something important to say. 5 years ago, he began, his voice carrying across the quiet room, I was a billionaire who'd forgotten what it meant to be human. I thought success was measured in dollars and deals. I thought I'd made it because I'd escaped poverty and built an empire. But I was wrong. He paused, finding Angela and Lily in the front row. Angela was thriving in her role at Wellington Enterprises, having created programs that had helped thousands of families. Lily was 14 now, confident and bright, dreaming of becoming a doctor. A little girl on a street corner taught me that success isn't about what you accumulate. It's about who you help, what you give, how you see people. Real success is measured in lives changed, in suffering prevented, in hope restored. He looked around the room at all the faces, each with their own story, their own struggles. Every person here matters. Every story deserves to be seen. And every one of us has the power to be someone's miracle. It doesn't take $1 billion. It takes attention, compassion, the willingness to stop when everyone else is walking past, to see what others choose to ignore, to remember that we're all one bad day, one illness, one tragedy away from needing help ourselves. After the speech, as people lined up for the free dinner service, Lily approached Marcus. She was carrying something carefully, a folder full of papers. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "My application," Lily said proudly, "for the Wellington Scholarship for Medicine. I'm going to be a doctor. And when I am, I'm going to help people the way you helped us. I'm going to see them. All of them." Marcus hugged her, his heart full. Around them, the community center buzzed with life, with hope, with proof that change was possible when people chose to care. That night, driving home through the city, Marcus looked out at the streets with different eyes than he'd had 5 years ago. He saw the people on the corners, the families struggling, the invisible ones, and he knew he'd never stop seeing them, never stop trying to help, because once you remember your humanity, once you truly see others, you can never go back to the comfortable blindness. The little girl with the crayon sign had saved him more than he'd ever saved her. She'd rescued him from a life of wealth without meaning, success without purpose, power without humanity. Sometimes, the people we help end up being the ones who save us. They remind us that we're all connected, all vulnerable, all worthy of being seen. And in seeing them, we finally see ourselves, not as we pretend to be, but as we truly are, imperfect and human, broken and beautiful, capable of both tremendous cruelty and extraordinary kindness. The choice of which to be is ours to make, one moment, one person, one act of seeing at a time. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video. It helps us share more beautiful stories like this one. Kindly drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I like to know what part of the world engages with my story. Oh, also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel Deep Cut Stories for more emotional stories about love, kindness, and fate that'll touch your heart deeply. Thank you for watching.